The rest area sign shows up the way it always does too late. A green rectangle in the headlights. White letters. A little icon of a picnic table that has nothing to do with why he's taking this exit. 2 miles ago, the highway felt empty. Now, as the ramp curves down into the trees, it feels like he's driving into a pocket where the world can't see him anymore. The trucker, let's call him Wes, doesn't say anything out loud. He doesn't need to. His hands stay at 10 and 2. Easy on the wheel, like this is routine. But the first thing he does tells you it isn't. He passes the closest parking row and keeps going. There are open spaces right there. Big, easy, clean pull-throughs. The kind a tired driver dreams about. And Wes just rolls past them like they're blocked off. No hesitation. No second guessing. Like those spaces aren't even real. From the outside, it looks irrational. Almost stubborn. Because if you're not a trucker, you see a rest stop as a break. If you are a trucker, you see it as a decision. And Wes is making one that most people wouldn't even notice. He creeps forward, not searching for a spot scanning. Headlights react between light poles where the pavement turns from gray to ink. He doesn't look at the empty spaces. He looks at the people, or more accurately, he looks for the subtle signs that people are nearby. Even when you can't see them yet, a door on a car that's cracked open, but not moving, a dome light that flicks on, then off, a silhouette that doesn't match the shape of a driver walking to the bathroom. He drives another 50 yards and slows. Still doesn't match the shape. Slowly, straight. No wasted motion. Then he stops, not to shut down, to listen. For a few seconds, the truck just sits there, engine vibrating under him, tires settling, air brakes sighing like a giant animal exhaling. Most drivers, the second they're parked, their brain clicks off. Bathroom, food, phone charger, sleep. Wes doesn't even unbuckle. He keeps both hands on the wheel like he's still driving, and he watches his passenger side mirror, because there's a reason he didn't take the easy space up front. And it's not what most people think. It's not because the front row is sketchy. It's not because there's a ghost story about this rest area. It's not because he's paranoid. It's because those open spaces were sending a message, and truckers learn, sometimes the hard way, that empty can mean selected. The question is, selected by who? The rest stop that looks fine in daylight. This place would look harmless. A few acres of pavement cut out of the trees. A bathroom building. Vending machines that never quite work right. A couple of picnic tables somebody thought families would use. At 1:17 a.m., it looks like something else. The light poles don't make the lot bright. They make it patchy. You get islands of white light surrounded by wide pools of dark. A person can be visible 1 second and gone the next just by walking behind a box trailer. And on nights like this, when the sky is clear and the air is still, sound travels weird. A conversation at the far end of the lot carries. A footstep near your trailer doesn't. Wes keeps his window up. That part isn't fear. It's habit. A truck cab is basically a tiny apartment with glass walls. You can't help but be visible. People can tell if you're awake. They can see your phone light. They can see when you're distracted. And even if you don't think that matters, you don't get to decide what other people are looking for. Wes reaches up and clicks off his interior dash glow. Not the gauges, just the extra light. He wants to be able to see out without B. Broadcasting that he's staring. He's still watching his mirror when a sedan rolls through the lot, slow, not slow like it's lost, slow like it's looking. It doesn't park. It doesn't pull into a space near the building. It doesn't stop at the bathroom. It drifts, pauses, drifts again, and then it makes a loop behind the back row where the trucks are stacked. Wes doesn't move, but his eyes track it the entire way. Because this is the part ordinary motorists don't realize. A rest stop at night isn't just a place where people rest. It's a place where patterns show up. And truckers, after a few years, stop thinking in terms of safe or dangerous and start thinking in terms of normal and not normal. That sedan, looping with no obvious purpose, isn't automatically a threat, but it is information. And Wes collects information before he commits to sleep. He's doing it right now. The weird part is, he isn't the only one 2 trucks down. A driver cracks his curtain just enough to look out. You can see the movement, a thin line of dark shifting in the sleeper window. Another driver, walking back from the restroom, doesn't go straight to his door. He slows, looks up and down the row, then climbs in fast, like he doesn't want to be outside any longer than he has to. Nobody says anything, but everybody is watching. It's quiet, but it's not relaxed. And that's because in the trucking world, there are rules nobody posts on signs. The companies don't train you on them. The DMV doesn't test you on them. They're not written in any safety manual. They're passed down in fragments. A warning in a fuel island conversation. A story told over the CBA sentence an older driver mutters while he's climbing into his cab. Don't park over there. The hardest part is, those rules don't feel like rules until the night you break one. Why he didn't take the first spot to understand the first rule. You have to understand what a truck is at night. A parked truck isn't just a vehicle. It's a container full of something somebody wants: fuel, freight, tools, personal property, and it's also a sleeping person behind a curtain. A trucker doesn't have the option most people have. If you feel unsafe in a motel parking lot, you can walk to the lobby. If you feel unsafe in your car, you can lock the doors and drive away. A trucker can do those things too, but it's slower, heavier, more complicated. To move, he has to start the engine, build air pressure, check mirrors, navigate out. That's not instant, and people who do bad things tend to like places where leaving takes time. So when Wes passed those open spots at the front, it wasn't because he didn't want want convenience. It was because he didn't like what those spots required. They required him to be alone up front. Near the entrance, the lot is open, wide. More space for somebody to walk. More space for somebody to walk. More space for you to be the only target. More space for you to be the only target. Down here in the packed row, it's the oppione in the packed row. It's the oppione in the tart. In more pats red and be spent in blood from eyes or glad this the opposite was spontaneous shore. Drum writer one more record and rest not cameras and a flame on the journey from two movies is the first thing most non truckers misunderstand. Truckers always sum up for their one way again. Really don't know so none of it are. Jeremiah on October 12 That's normal. If the lot is half full and a whole row is open, it can mean one of two things. Either it's just random or people who've been here longer are avoiding something. And the second possibility is why Wes still hasn't gone to sleep. He's waiting for the lot to tell him what kind of night this is. The quiet sigh. Now's truckers use without meaning to. There's a language in a truck stop parking lot that doesn't involve words. It's in small things, like how long a truck idles before shutting down, like whether a driver leaves his headlights on after backing in or kills them immediately, like whether someone steps out and stretches relaxed or steps out and looks around first. Even the kind of trucks matter. A row full of company rigs with the same logo feels different than a row of owner-operators who don't know each other. Wes checks his mirrors again. The sedan makes another loop, this time slower. It passes the front row, those empty spaces, then eases toward the bathroom building. Its headlights sweep across the entrance like it's searching for something. Then it parks for less than a minute. No one gets out. Then it leaves. Wes's jaw tightens just a little. Not panic, not fear, recognition. He reaches over and picks up his phone, but he doesn't start typing. He just looks at the screen, then puts it back down. Because here's another rule you don't learn in a handbook. If something feels off, you don't want to advertise that you feel off. A nervous driver is a distracted driver. A distracted driver is easier to approach. So Wes stays boring. Boring is safe. He does a slow scan of the row, counts trucks. He notices something that would mean nothing to anyone else. 3 trucks are parked with a gap in between them, like they intentionally left a space open. Not a mistake. Not sloppy parking. A deliberate gap. It looks like wasted space. But Wes knows why drivers sometimes do that. It creates a buffer. It gives a driver room to pull out without waiting for another truck to move. It gives the row a little flexibility if someone needs to reposition fast. And it also creates a weird kind of test, because if a car pulls into that gap into a space that is obviously not a marked spot, it tells you something about the driver of that car. It tells you they're not here to rest. They're here to get close. Wes watches that gap like it's a tripwire. Then, from somewhere behind him, a different sound cuts through the idling engines. Footsteps. Not running. Not stumbling. Just walking. Steady. A figure appears in the edge of his mirror, someone moving along the line of trailers, not toward the bathroom building. That's unusual, but it's not automatically dangerous. Truckers walk around. People stretch their legs. Drivers check straps, seals, tires. Except this person isn't checking anything. They're not carrying a flashlight. They're not wearing a safety vest. They're not looking at equipment. They're looking into cabs, just quick glances as they pass, like they're shopping. One glance at Wes's sleeper curtain, a half second at his door handle area, then moving on. Wes doesn't move. He doesn't sit up taller. He doesn't reach for anything dramatic. He just turns his head slightly enough that if the person looks again, they'll realize. The driver is awake. The figure keeps walking. Doesn't stop at Wes's truck. That's the point. Being awake is sometimes the simplest deterrent you have, but it also raises a more uncomfortable question. If someone is scanning cabs, what are they trying to find? A driver asleep? A door unlocked? A purse on the passenger seat? Or something else? Wes waits until the figure disappears between 2 trucks before he finally unbuckles. Even then, he doesn't climb into the sleeper. He stays in the driver's seat a moment longer, feeling the weight of the decision settling in, because now he's not just choosing a parking spot, he's choosing whether to stay at all. And if that sounds dramatic, consider the reality. Truckers live on clocks, not just the schedule of a delivery, though that matters. A legal clock. A fatigue clock. A body clock. You can't just keep driving because you feel like it. Your day is measured in hours you're allowed to move, hours you must rest, and a brain that starts to blur around the edges if you push it too far. So when a driver pulls into a rest area at 1 a.m., it's usually B. Because he needs it, which makes what Wes does next even stranger. He starts the truck into gear, just a little roll forward, a reposition, like he's preparing for a faster exit, and he angles his rig so the nose is pointed toward the easiest way out of the row. It's subtle. That's a rule 2-1 that doesn't sound heroic. Practical. Don't park in a way that forces you to not leave, because at night there are people, because at night a lot of you have to leave, because at night a lot of you shows knife, because at night the my teddy shows post him further night in which not. There's so wide in the light. Wes had laughed, but not because it was a dumb question, because it was the kind of question that proves you've never had to sleep in a glass box next to a public sidewalk. Bright light helps you see. It also helps everyone see you. It outlines your cab. It turns your windshield into a display case. And if you've ever walked through a rest area at night, you know the truth. The bathroom building is a magnet. It pulls people, tired families, travelers, teenagers messing around, someone walking a dog, someone looking for a trash can. Most of them are harmless. But the more traffic you have near your doors, the less control you have over your space. And control is what truckers chase at night. Not comfort, not convenience, control. That's why some experienced drivers will choose a spot that looks less comfortable, a noisy reefer row, a tight pack of trucks, because discomfort buys them predictability. If you're surrounded by working drivers, most of the motion you hear is normal. If you're parked alone in a quiet corner, every sound is a question mark, and question marks keep you awake. Wiz knows this, which is why he's still awake anyway, because tonight there are too many question marks even in the crowded row. How a rest stop turns without warning. Rest stops have a rhythm. Curtains close. The building lights hum. The world narrows to small private bubbles. But there's another phase that truckers don't talk about as openly. The phase when a rest stop becomes something else. It doesn't happen every night. It might not even happen most nights. But when it happens, the signs come in pieces. A car that makes too many loops. A person walking the truck row without a purpose. A sudden cluster of vehicles arriving together. Parking weirdly, leaving quickly. A driver who keeps his shoes on in the sleeper. A driver who refuses to take the same exit after dark, even though it adds miles. Wes has his own mental checklist, built over years. He can't always articulate it. It's not superstition. It's pattern recognition. And as he sits there, he realizes something important. The lot is filling up, but it's filling up in the wrong way. 2 more trucks come in and pass the front row, just like he did. One of them slows near those empty spaces, almost takes one, then keeps going. That driver noticed something too. Wes watches the front row again. It's not just empty, it's avoided, which raises the question he's been circling since the ramp. What do drivers who came before him know that he doesn't? Because truckers don't avoid easy parking for no reason. The first rule appears without anyone saying it. A new rig pulls in while Wes is watching. Fresh paint, bright marker lights, no road grime, a rookie, or at least someone who hasn't been out long. The truck rolls past the crowded rows and heads straight toward the front, toward the open spaces. Of course it does. That's the rational choice. The driver takes one of the best looking spots, right under a light. Easy in, easy out. Close to the building, Wes feels his stomach tighten, just slightly, because the front row isn't cursed. It's not automatically dangerous, but it's exposed, and the rookie just made himself the most visible truck in the lot. Wes watches as the driver shuts down, steps out, and walks toward the bathroom with the casual posture of someone who thinks the night is over. Wes considers doing something, getting out, walking over, saying, "What exactly? Hey, welcome to trucking. You might want to move your rig because the vibe is weird tonight." If you say them wrong, you can scare someone into making an even worse decision, like leaving the truck unattended while they search for another spot, or driving tired because they're spooked. So instead, Wes does what drivers does what it's instead. Wes stays free of Deutschland and run the hair look unmemorable ferry hagrid. So instead of to spoon of china thriving over my to Craig Spain the West of Greenwich. He waits till every country, but the night of all frights of the red red. Closed all the way. He leaves a narrow gap at the edge, just enough to see his mirror, just enough to read silhouettes. He lies down fully dressed, boots off, but within reach, phone on the bunk, face down. He sets no alarm. Not because he doesn't need one, because he wants to hear everything. Another few minutes pass. Then that sedan returns. Wes hears it before he sees it. Tires on gravel near the edge of the lot. A slow crunch. Then the soft roll of rubber on pavement. It comes in without urgency, like it belongs here. It doesn't park in the normal car spaces. It stops briefly near the front row near the rookie's truck. Headlights off, just sitting. Wes holds his breath without realizing he's doing it. The sedan stays there for maybe 15 seconds. Then it moves. Slowly it glides along the rookie's trailer like it's reading the side of it, like it's checking something. Wes can't see inside the car. The windows are dark. The car doesn't do anything overt. No one gets out. No doors open. But the behavior is wrong. It's too deliberate. Then the car rolls forward, passes the rookie, and exits the lot. Just like that. If you told this story to someone who doesn't drive, they might shrug. So a car drove through. But truckers don't judge a night by what they can prove. They judge it by what doesn't make sense. And that didn't make sense. Wes keeps his eyes on that front row, because now a new question has opened up. If someone is paying attention to which trucks are alone, what happens when the driver is asleep? The danger of misunderstanding what alone means out here. People love the idea of freedom on the road. Just you, the highway, your music, and a horizon that never ends. Trucking is that sometimes, but the part nobody puts on postcards is the loneliness that comes with parking. When you shut down, you're not just stopping the truck, you're removing yourself from the flow of the world. And at a rest stop, you're doing it in a place designed for strangers to come and go without explanation. That's why truckers, even the ones who like their space, often don't stop alone if they can help it. They'll park near another truck, not because they want company, but because the presence of another working driver changes the math for anyone with bad intentions. 2 trucks mean 2 drivers. 2 drivers mean 2 sets of eyes, 2 phones, 2 voices that might yell, 2 engines that might start. It doesn't guarantee safety. It just makes you harder. Was learned that early from a story an older driver told him in a diesel-soaked parking lot years ago. A headline, not a police report, just a story. A guy parked alone at a quiet rest area because he wanted peace. Middle of the night, he woke up to a sound he couldn't place, like something tapping. He looked out and saw a silhouette near his trailer doors. He didn't want to confront anyone, didn't want trouble, So he stayed quiet, hoping they'd go away. By morning, the seal on his doors was cut. Maybe they took something. Maybe they didn't have time. Maybe they were interrupted. The point wasn't the theft. The point was that somebody felt comfortable approaching his truck because nobody else was close enough to notice. That's what alone means out here. Not lonely, vulnerable. And tonight, the rookie is alone in the front row. Wes turns that thought over in his head. Then here's something else. A heavy diesel engine starts one row over. Not a truck pulling out, just starting a driver turning the key without moving. That's another quiet signal. Other drivers feel it too. Something is in the air tonight, and the lot is responding. A decision nobody wants to make at 2 a.m. at 2:06 a.m. Wes sits up in the bunk. He looks at his clock like it offended him. He needs sleep. He also needs certainty. They give you probabilities. And right now, his probabilities are shifting in the wrong direction. He slides into the driver's seat without turning on the cab light. The movement is practiced, controlled. He peeks through the windshield. At the front row, the rookie's truck is dark, curtains closed, driver asleep. Wes watches for another minute, then reaches for something most people under 40 have never touched, a CB mic. It hangs there like a relic, coiled cord, stretched just enough to reach. Wes doesn't broadcast on channel 19 like it's 1995. Most nights, the CB is quiet or full of nonsense. But when you need to talk to someone nearby without stepping outside, it still works. He turns it on low, listens. At first, nothing but faint chatter in the distance drivers miles away, their voices sliding in and out like ghosts. Then, closer. Ain't stopping there no more. A different voice, faint, cut off. Wes adjusts the squelch. Tries to pull it in. The voice returns clearer now. Front row's a no-go. Y'all do what you want. I'm just saying. Wes pauses, because here's the thing. If multiple drivers who don't know each other independently decide the front row is a no-go, that's not paranoia. That's a pattern. Wes keys the mic, just once. Who's saying front row's a no-go? He releases. Silence. Then, a reply calm. Matter of fact. Like the person answering doesn't want drama. Ain't nothing official. Just keep your head. They've been rolling that little car through here all week. All week. Wes sits back. That's the first time tonight someone has hinted this isn't random. It's not just tonight's weird vibe. It's a repeat behavior. And now the curiosity shifts. Because if that car has been rolling through for a week, why? And why here? And why do the experienced drivers know about it, while the rookie parked alone under the light doesn't? Wes looks again at the front row. He considers getting out and walking over. But before he can decide, the bathroom building door opens. A figure steps out into the light. Not the rookie. Someone else. They stand there too long. Not heading to a car. Not heading down the walkway. Just standing. Then they start walking, not toward the lot exit, not toward the cars, toward the trucks. Wes watches them cross the open. Was his fairly good nights. Was his hand closes, Mrs. and Mrs. Heavy of indicates and I have the Bobby says, and now they started, no, not yet, but because in every when something feels wrong, time is one. He got what in the way with a rookie who has no eyes, be able to was weeks be set for that. The rules you learn the hard way. Wes keeps his eyes on the gap by the trees where the figure disappeared. It's not a horror movie moment. No screaming. No sudden movement. Just a patch of darkness that swallowed a person too cleanly. And that's exactly what bothers him. If this is nothing, it'll stay nothing. But if it's something, the something usually starts quiet. Wes looks again at the rookie's truck in the front row dark cab. Curtains pulled, parked like he's camping under a streetlight. Then Wes glances down his own row. Most of the trucks are shut down now. Reefer units hum. A few marker lights glow. And in the windows you can see the faint blue flicker of phone screens from drivers who can't quite fall asleep. He reaches for the CB mic again. Not because it's reliable. Because it's the closest thing truckers have to tapping a wall in the dark and listening for a response. He keys it. Low power. Any of y'all awake in the back row? I got a new rig up front. Looks like somebody's walking the line. He releases. For a second, nothing. Then a voice comes back, tired but alert. Yeah, I see him. Another voice closer, more direct. Don't go out there by yourself, brother. Wes doesn't answer yet, because that sentence, don't go out there by yourself, isn't just advice. It's one of the first unwritten rules a driver learns. If he stays in this long enough at night, you don't investigate alone. Not because every shadow is a threat, because you can't control what you're walking into, and you can't control who's watching you walk into it. Wes glances at the keys in his hand again. He could start up and roll out. He still has a little drive time. He could chase a truck stop 10 miles down and buy a shower and a cinnamon roll and a false sense of security. But leaving has a cost too. You lose your spot. You lose time. You lose sleep. And you teach yourself a habit that can turn dangerous in a different way. Driving tired because you're trying to outrun a feeling. So Wes does what experienced drivers often do. Instead of trying to be heroes, he makes the lot less convenient for anyone looking for an easy target. He clicks his headlights on, not high beams. Just enough light to paint the mirrors and wake up a few reflective strips on nearby trailers. Then he starts the engine. The rumble alone changes the atmosphere. It says, someone in this row is awake and willing to move. 2 trucks down. Another engine starts. 1 down the row. Marker lights come on like a slow chain reaction. It's subtle, quiet. quiet. No one is shouting, but the message is clear. This row is not sleeping as deeply as it looks. Wes keeps his truck idling and watches the front row again. The rookie's truck stays dark, and that's the part that makes Wes's jaw tighten, because if you're new, you don't know the difference between quiet and safe. You think darkness means privacy. A lot of times, darkness just means you're not part of the conversation. How truckers warn each other without starting a fight. Wes tries the simplest option first, a radio call-out. He keys the CB again. Hey, front row New Cascadia under the pole light. You got your ears on? No response. Maybe the rookie doesn't run a CB. Plenty don't. Maybe his volume is down. Maybe he's asleep. Wes waits, then keys again slower, calmer. I ain't trying to bother you. Just checking you're good. Still nothing. Wes exhales through his nose. This is where the unwritten rules start stacking on top of each other, because there's another one most non-truckers never have to think about. You don't just walk up and knock on a stranger's truck at 2 a.m. In any other context, that's the sketchy behavior. A knock can mean anything. A real emergency, a scam, a distraction, a guy asking for help, a guy testing if you're asleep. Truckers know that. Which means if Wes becomes the knock, he could spook the rookie into doing something worse, like swinging the door open fast, stepping out half awake, or starting the truck in a rush. Wes needs to get the rookie's attention without becoming the problem. He scans for a solution. That's when he sees it. A thin moving shadow at the rookie's trailer near the landing gear area, where the light doesn't quite reach. There's definitely someone there, but Wes still can't tell what they're doing. Could be a person walking through. Could be someone cutting across the lot. Could be the rookie himself. For all Wes knows, maybe he got up to use the bathroom. Except the rookie's cab is dark, and the figure isn't moving like someone heading somewhere. It's hovering. Pausing, Wes's instincts press down on him, like a hand on the shoulder. He reaches into the passenger side and grabs a small flashlight, not a weapon, not a dramatic prop, just a practical tool. Most drivers keep one close, not because they expect danger every night, but because trucking is built on small emergencies. Dropped keys, blown fuses, broken straps, uneven pavement. Wes cracks his window an inch and listens. No voices, no laughter, no argument, just a faint metallic tick, like something tapping or brushing against something else. The figure shifts again. Wes closes the window. Then he does something that would look weird to a passenger car driver. He calls for backup, not cops, not security. There often isn't any. Backup, in the only form most rest stops actually provide, another driver who's awake. He keys the CB. Any of y'all want to walk with me to the front row? I'm not going up there solo. A pause. Then that closer voice from before return. I'm coming. Give me a second. Wes waits, watching his mirrors the way a person watches a door in a bad neighborhood, without wanting to admit that's what they're doing. A minute later, a driver steps down from a black Peterbilt 2 trucks over, big silhouette, hoodie, work boots, moves like he's done this 100 times. He doesn't walk straight over. He takes a wider path, scanning the lot as he goes, looking casual but alert. When he reaches Wes's door, he doesn't see himself with a name. He just nods once, like this isn't about friendship, it's about procedure. You seen that too? He asks, voice low. Wes nods toward the front row.
Yeah.
The other driver looks at the flashlight in Wes's hand. Keep it pointed down. Don't light yourself up. That's another unwritten rule right there, one you learn from watching. At night, in a wide open lot, a bright flashlight doesn't just illuminate what you're looking at, it marks where you are. They step out together, doors shutting softly. The air outside is cooler than Wes expected. Smells like diesel and pine needles and damp asphalt. They walk in a straight line toward the front row, not fast, not slow. Not hunting, not timid, just present. As they cross into the brighter light near the rookie's truck, the shadow by the trailer moves. It's a person. All right, but the person doesn't run, doesn't bolt. They step backward calmly, like they don't want contact. And then Wes sees the detail that changes everything. The person is holding a plastic gas can, not a tool bag, not a phone, a gas can. Wes stops walking, the other driver stops too. Neither of them speaks at first, because in that moment, both of them are doing the same calculation. A gas can at 2 a.m. near a truck trailer can mean something innocent, or it can mean the oldest theft in the book. Fuel. Wes keeps his voice even. You all right? He calls, not aggressive, not accusing, just loud enough. The person doesn't answer. They turn their heads slightly, like they're listening for something behind them. Then they start walking away back toward the car lot side. Away from the trucks, not running, but leaving. Wes watches them go until they disappear past the bathroom building. He doesn't chase. Neither does the other driver. Chasing is how you turn a weird situation into a dangerous one. Instead, Wes and the other driver look at the rookie's rig, and right away, Wes notices something most people wouldn't. The rookie's fuel tank is on the exposed side facing the open lane. It's not wrong. Trucks are built how they're built. But it's another reason experienced drivers think about which side they park on. Because it's not just about where your cab is. It's about what someone can reach without making noise. Wes stares at the fuel cap area from a distance. He can't tell if it's been touched. He can't smell diesel in the air. There's no obvious damage, which means he's stuck with the most frustrating part of nights like this. He has a clear warning and no clear proof. The other driver, still standing beside Wes, mutters something that sounds like it's been said before. Folks think rest areas are free. Everything free. Even your fuel. Wes finally asks, you know that guy? The driver shakes his head. Ain't about knowing him. It's about knowing the pattern. Pattern. That word again. Wes looks back at the empty front row, then at the woods, then toward the car parking section. The rookie is asleep through all of it, and now Wes has to decide whether to wake him, because waking him is its own risk. But letting him sleep alone, up front after seeing someone with a gas can hovering near his truck, that feels like gambling with somebody else's night. The knock problem. Wes steps closer to the rookie's cab. He doesn't knock yet. He checks the windshield. No glow. No movement. He leans in just slightly and tries the CB again. Closer now. Like proximity will help. Front row Cascadia driver, you awake? Nothing. Wes glances at the other driver. The other driver gives him a look that says, do it if you're gonna do it. So Wes knocks 2 taps, not a pound. Firm enough to be heard, not enough to sound like a threat. Then he steps back from the door. He keeps his hands visible. He waits. A long few seconds pass. Then the curtain in the rookie's cab shifts. A face appears in the gap, young, confused. The look of someone dragged out of deep sleep. The window cracks open an inch. Yeah, the rookie says, voice thick. Wes keeps his tone calm and plain. Sorry to wake you. You're good. Just key. Your door's locked. We had somebody walking around down here. The rookie's eyebrows pull together. Like, who? Wes doesn't answer with a story. That would spiral. He answers with the only thing he can honestly say. Don't know. Just keep it tight. If you need anything, there's drivers awake in the back row. The rookie looks past Wes toward the other driver, then back again. He nods slowly, like he's trying to absorb rules he didn't know existed. Okay, he says. Then he adds, almost defensively, I'm fine. I'm just tired. Wes nods. Yeah, we all are. And then Wes does something that might be the most important part of the whole exchange. He leaves. He doesn't lecture. Doesn't tell the rookie to move. Doesn't embarrass him. Truckers have pride. Rookies especially. You don't want to turn a warning into a challenge. Instead, you plant the idea. Pay attention. As Wes walks back toward his own rig with the other driver, he feels the tension in his shoulders loosen slightly. Not because the danger is gone, because he's done what truckers do when they're trying to keep things from escalating. They make sure nobody is completely alone. Back at Wes's truck, the other driver finally says, name's Clay. Wes nods. Wes. Clay leans against the step, eyes still scanning. You see that, Ken? Clay asks. Wes nods. Clay doesn't claim he knows exactly what it was about. He doesn't act like a detective. He just says, that ain't a lost tourist. Wes thinks about the sedan from earlier. The loops. The stop and go. Same car you seen? Wes asks. Clay shrugs. Hard to say, but I've heard about a little dark sedan coming through here, a couple different nights. He says it like someone repeating weather information, not gossip. Not fear. Data looks across the lot again. The front row still looks normal, and that's what sticks with him. From a distance, no one would ever guess this rest area has its own nighttime etiquette, which brings the next question. If truckers have to invent these rules to protect themselves, who decides the rules, and who pays for it when someone doesn't know them yet? The rule nobody likes admitting. You can't sleep through a weird night by 2:30. The lot settles again. Engines shut down one by one. Marker lights dim. Sudden agent start from the car side. And somewhere around 3:05, he hears it again. That slow crunch of stripes. And that slow crunch of tires of stub. You can see from where they stand. Quite understand. That slow crunch of tires is said. The Mara was net for us bus sits up, peering through his curtain at the west sealers and all was set for his up to derive this. Here stop base was later the direction to my miserable. Now this at the rears range for that. Cargo, a quick theft from an unlocked cab, or something else. Something harder to explain. All he knows is the car isn't here for the bathroom. And that leaves Wes with a rule truckers rarely say directly, because it sounds bleak. If the night feels wrong, you don't get real sleep. You get a series of naps and calculations, and the next day you pay for it. Morning doesn't erase the night at 5:48 a.m. The sky starts turning gray. Not sunrise exactly, just that thin light that makes the world look washed out, like it's been left in the rain. That's when the lot comes alive again. Drivers step down from cabs, stiff-legged, stretching backs. Doors open and close. Air brakes pop. Reefer units roar louder as people wake up and start moving. Wes climbs out and walks toward the bat. Room building. The cold air bites his cheeks. He passes the rookie's truck. The rookie is outside now, holding a cup of gas station coffee like it's medicine. He looks exhausted. Wes slows. The rookie recognizes him immediately. Hey, the rookie says, a little embarrassed. Thanks for the heads up last night. Wes nods. You good? The rookie hesitates, then says, I think so, but I didn't sleep great after that. Wes doesn't say, good, you shouldn't have. He just says, yeah, happens. The rookie shifts his weight. I heard something like footsteps, he admits. Didn't know if it was in my head. Wes looks at him, measuring how much to say. This is where trucking culture gets complicated. If you overload a new driver with horror stories, you can mess them up. Make them jumpy. Make them drive too far to avoid stopping. Make them see threats everywhere. But if you tell them nothing, they keep parking like it's a hotel. So Wes chooses the middle. There's nights where a place place is just a place, Wes says. And there's nights where it's busy. The rookie frowns. Busy doing what? Wes shrugs like he's not making a big deal out of it. People looking for opportunity. Could be fuel. Could be somebody trying doors. Most of the time it's not violent. It's just annoying until it ain't. The rookie looks down at his coffee. I parked up front 'cause it was open. Wes nods. That's why I came over. Open ain't always a gift. The rookie looks up. So where should I park then? Wes almost laughs, but he doesn't, because that question asked sincerely is the start of the entire hidden system. And the answer isn't park here like a GPS instruction. It's a way of thinking. Wes says, you ever watch birds in a parking lot? The rookie blinks. What? Pigeons, Wes says. They don't stand alone in the middle of the open. They stay near something. They keep eyes on each other. They leave themselves a way out. The rookie stares like he's trying to translate. Wes points, subtle, toward the back row. You see, where most of the drivers stack up. That ain't by accident. It's loud, it's cramped, but it's predictable. The rookie nods slowly. Then he asks the question Wes doesn't answer yet. Why do they keep coming here then? That car, you said it's been around? Wes doesn't have proof. He doesn't know if the sedan is connected to anything real or if it's just someone making rounds. So he gives the only honest response. I don't know, Wes says. But I know drivers talk. If they keep talking about this place, there's a reason. And the rookie, still half asleep, says something that sounds naive, but it's exactly how outsiders think. Why don't they just call someone? Wes looks at him, because now they've reached the part nobody likes saying on camera. Rest areas are designed for rest, not protection. Some have patrols sometimes. Some have cameras that help after something happens. Some have good lighting. Some don't. But most of the time, at 2 a.m., the only real security is a handful of tired strangers with CDL licenses, staying awake just enough to notice what doesn't belong. Truckers are the system, which leads into the next layer, the communication layer, the part you don't see unless you're inside it. The informal network. How warnings travel faster than official ones back at his truck. Wes checks his phone. He has messages, nothing dramatic. A dispatch update, a weather alert, and then, from a number he doesn't have saved, a text. You running east? Avoid the rest area before mile 214 after dark. Same car been lurking. Heard it from 3 drivers now. No name, no source, just a warning, passed along like a chain letter, except this one isn't asking for luck. It's asking for awareness. Wes stares at it for a second, because this is how truckers actually share information now. Not always over CB, not always in person. Sometimes it's a text in a small group chat of drivers from the same company. Sometimes it's a message from a friend of a friend. Sometimes it's a quick comment at a fuel island. Don't stop there tonight. It's messy, informal, unverified, but it's also fast. And when you live on the road, fast information, imperfect as it is, can be the difference between an annoying night and a disastrous one. Wes looks out across the lot again. The rookie is climbing back into his cab. Other trucks are rolling out. In daylight, everything looks normal again. And that's what makes the whole thing hard to explain to people who don't do this. There's no crime scene tape, no broken glass, no headline, just a sense of being watched and the memory of a gas can in the dark. Wes starts his truck and pulls out, merging back onto the highway, but the night doesn't leave him behind at the on-ramp. It rides with him, because now he's wondering something bigger than is this rest area sketchy. He's wondering if warnings are traveling by word of mouth. How many drivers are hearing them too late? The story drivers tell when they're trying to teach without preaching later that day. Wes stops at a truck stop, not a rest area with fuel islands, bright canopy lights, and more movement. It feels safer in the way a crowded place feels safer, but safer doesn't mean safe. Inside, the air smells like fryer oil and coffee that's been cooking too long. Wes grabs a seat near the back, away from the families and the souvenir racks. He eats without tasting much. Clay walks in 15 minutes later, like the universe is finishing a sentence. He spots Wes, nods, and sits down without asking. That rookie still there this morning? Clay asks.
Yeah, Wes says. Looked spooked.
Clay grunts. Good. Spooked means he'll start paying attention. Wes raises an eyebrow. Clay shrugs. Better than confident. Wes takes a sip of coffee. How long you been running? Wes asks. Clay leans back, eyes scanning the room out of habit. Long enough to have stories I don't like repeating, he says. Wes waits. Truckers don't rush stories. Stories have their own pace. Clay taps the table once, like he's choosing which memory to open. Couple years back. Hey, he begins. I parked at a rest area that looked like nothing. Nice lights, clean bathrooms, even had security cameras on poles. Wes listens. Clay continues. Lot was empty. I thought, perfect, peace and quiet. He pauses. Woke up at about 2. Heard a hiss. Wes doesn't interrupt. Clay says, at first I thought air leak. So I step out, and I'm standing there in the dark, half awake, looking under my trailer like an idiot. Wes feels his stomach tighten, because he already knows where this is going. Clay says, and that's when I realized the hiss wasn't my truck. He holds Wes's gaze. It was a car idling, right behind my trailer, lights off, just sitting, like they'd been waiting for me to come outside. Clay doesn't embellish. He doesn't claim there was a chase. He just says, I froze for a second. Then I did the only smart thing I've ever done at 2 in the morning. I went right back in and locked up. Wes nods slowly. Clay's voice stays flat, but the lesson lands hard. The danger isn't always the thing happening to the truck. Sometimes it's the thing that happens because you reacted. Clay continues. Next day I realized my mistake wasn't parking there. My mistake was thinking I had to go fix something right then, alone, in the dark. Wes sits back, because that story adds a new rule on top of the first one. Not, don't stop at rest areas. Not, be afraid. Something more specific and more useful. Don't let the lot lure you outside. Not for a noise, not for a knock, not for curiosity. Because the moment you step down onto asphalt at 2 a.m., you've changed the situation from someone near my truck to someone near me. And that's a difference you can't undo. Wes thinks back to last night, how he and Clay walked together, how they didn't chase, how they didn't get baited. How'd you learn that? Wes asks. Clay gives a tired smile. The hard way, he says. Same as everybody. A second unwritten rule emerges, one nobody writes down after they eat. Wes and Clay walk back outside into the daylight. The parking lot is bright, almost cheerful. And yet, both of them instinctively look for the same things they looked for at 1 a.m. What's parked where? Who's sitting in a car without moving? Which trucks are isolated? Where the exits are? Clay points at a row of trucks parked nose to tail along the far edge of the lot. You see that? He asks. Wes nods. Clay says, a lot of rookies think the best spot is the far end. Quiet. Nobody near you. Wes already knows. Clay continues anyway. Not as a lecture, but as a warning, disguised as small talk. Far end's great until you need help, or until somebody decides you're the easiest one to mess with. Wes watches a driver climb down, check a tire with a quick kick, and climb back in. Clay says, people think safety is about distance from danger. He looks at Wes. It's really about distance from witnesses. That line sticks because it reframes everything. A rest stop can look dangerous and still be safe if it's busy. A rest stop can look clean and still be risky if it's empty. The same space can flip depending on who's awake and who's watching. And now Wes has a bigger concern, because the rookie from last night is just one guy, but tonight somewhere else, another rookie is going to roll into another rest area and do the same thing, pick the first open spot, park under the light, shut down, and disappear behind a curtain. Not because he's reckless, because he doesn't know the game is being played. Wes checks his phone again and sees another message in the same chain as before. This one is shorter. Blue/black sedan. No headlights. Loops the lot. Been seen at 2 different rest areas. 2 different rest areas. Wes stares at the screen, because now the mystery changes shape. One rest stop being weird is local. 2 rest stops with the same description starts to feel like a route. And if it's a route, then someone else is doing pattern recognition too. Not just the truckers. Someone is learning their habits. Where they stop. When they stop. Which rows they choose. And suddenly the unwritten rules feel less like folklore and more like counter-surveillance. Wes pockets the phone. Clay watches him. You getting the messages too? Clay asks. Wes nods. Clay's face stays neutral, but his eyes tighten. That's what I don't like, Clay says. When it ain't random. Wes looks out at the highway beyond the truck stop, where rigs roll by in a steady line like blood through an artery. How do you know it ain't random? Wes asks. Clay doesn't answer immediately. Instead, he says something that opens a much bigger loop. You ever notice how some nights a place is empty and it shouldn't be? Clay asks. Wes thinks about the front row, the avoided spaces. Clay continues. That's not because everybody got the same idea at the same time. He nods toward the lot exit. That's because information moved ahead of you. Wes feels a chill that has nothing to do with the weather, because if the empty front row is a message, then that means the parking lot itself is a kind of bulletin board. Drivers vote with their tires, they avoid a row, and the avoidance becomes visible. A rookie arrives later and doesn't understand what he's seeing, and the people who do understand it, whatever they're doing, can read that bulletin board too, which leads to the question Wes can't shake now. If certain crews or certain opportunists are watching rest stops and learning trucker patterns, how far ahead are they planning? And how would an experienced driver even know when he's being routed toward a bad stop? Wes gets into his truck, starts the engine, and pulls out. The sun is up. Traffic is normal. Everything looks fine. But now Wes knows the scariest nights aren't the ones where danger is obvious. They're the ones where the signs are subtle, and the only people who can read them are the ones who've already paid for the lesson. And tonight he's going to have to park again, somewhere. So what happens when Wes rolls into his next rest area and recognizes the same pattern, only this time the lot is full, his clock is running out, and the safe choice might not be available? When a rest stop stops feeling safe. By the time the sun starts dropping behind the tree line, Wes's day has turned into the kind of day that forces decisions, not dramatic decisions, just the ones that grind you down. A shipper that took too long, a scale that ate 15 minutes, traffic that wasn't on the forecast, a detour that looked short on the map and wasn't short in real life. And then there's the clock. Truckers don't just get tired, they get timed. The electronic log doesn't care that you're 30 minutes from a place you trust. It cares about the numbers. So when Wes sees the next rest area sign, his first thought isn't comfort, it's math. And the math says, if he skips this, he'll be hunting for parking in the dark with almost no time left. He takes the exit. As the ramp curves down, Wes's headlights catch the first hint that tonight will be different from last night. The entrance lane is already crowded, not with passenger cars, with trucks, a line of marker lights, idling red and amber, creeping forward like a slow-moving train. Rest areas don't have check-in desks. No reservation. No attendant assigning spots. When they fill up, they don't close. They just become a puzzle with too many pieces. Wes rolls in behind a tanker and eases forward. Eyes moving, constantly counting spaces, reading angles, watching for drivers backing out. And then he sees something that turns the situation inside out. The back row, the row that should be the safer choice because it's packed with rigs and eyes, is full. Every spot is taken. Even the sloppy spots are taken. And the only open spaces left are up front, the same kind of open spaces he avoided the night before. Wide. Right. Close to the bathrooms. Close to the car lot. Exposed. The lot is forcing him into a choice. And the choice isn't where do I want to park? It's what kind of risk can I live with tonight? Because there's a mistake new drivers make when they first start hearing about dangerous rest stops. They're running every place that makes them uneasy. They run freight through every kind of town and every kind of night. The real skill is choosing the least bad option when your best option is gone. Wes crawls forward and passes a sign that says no overnight parking on shoulders, like that sign has ever stopped a tired driver. He sees a few trucks already parked where they shouldn't be, half on the edge line, half on the gravel, angled like they're ready to flee. Those trucks are broadcasting something too, not fear. Desperation, and desperation changes people's judgment. Wes keeps rolling, scanning the front row. That's when he notices the first detail that makes his skin go cold. The front row isn't just open, it's open in a pattern. Random empty spaces. Where the rest were probably the last stop. Parking is rarely the problem. The problem there because it's a god. And even from this distance, Wes can now like walk. We went out somewhere down your guys and bring you out so while I went back. Very on guess. The point, but it is. Well, I claim the it's in the Bennington, where you've been 95 and big bullet. God, where is there never? No, down there us. The boy only on, but I'm not hoping they'll show over that. He checks his mirrors. The person walking the line pauses too long near a company van in the car lot, then keeps moving. Wes shuts down, the engine coughs into silence, and the rest area soundscape takes over. Distant highway roar, reefer hums, the clack of a trailer latch somewhere far off, and then something else, a car rolling slowly on the car side with headlights dimmed down. Wes can't see the make, but he recognizes the behavior. It doesn't park, it doesn't part. More people, more witnesses. But a crowded rest stop creates its own kind of blind spots. You can't see down the lanes because trailers block the view. You can't hear individual footsteps because engines and reefers wash everything into a steady mechanical noise. And if someone wants to move through the lot without being noticed, a full lot gives them something valuable cover. Wes sits in his driver's seat, lights off, watching through the gap in his curtain. A pickup pulls into the car section and parks crooked, taking up 2 spaces. Nobody gets out. 10 minutes later, a different car pulls in, stops near the bathroom building, then leaves, not lost. Not indecisive, purposeful. Most motorists would write this off as normal nighttime randomness. Truckers don't, because truckers learn to ask a different question. Not, is this place dangerous? But, does this place make sense right now? A rest area makes sense when people come in, park, go to the bathroom, and leave. It makes less sense when vehicles arrive, circle, stop without exiting, then disappear again. Those aren't crimes, they're just patterns that don't match the purpose of the place. Wes reaches for his phone and checks a driver group chat, nothing official. Just a handful of numbers that have stuck together over the years. No one is posting headlines, just short messages that read like weather warnings. Mile 178 rest area packed. Saw a guy walk in truck row. Watch your tanks. Anyone know if they got cameras working there? Then a new message appears, and Wes's eyes lock on it. Same dark sedan, with no lights. Seen it again tonight. But it's exactly the kind of slow motion that makes experienced drivers stay awake. Wes looks to his left. The driver in the next truck has his curtain cracked too. They don't make eye contact, they don't wave, but they both know the other one is awake. That's a strange kind of comfort, not friendship, mutual awareness. The man continues down the line. Then he turns toward the bathroom building and disappears into the bright doorway. Wes waits for him to come out. 1 minute, 2, 3. Then the man exits, and instead of walking toward the car lot like someone finished using the restroom, he angles right back toward the trucks again. Same pace. Same route. Wes feels the decision tightening in his chest. Do I leave? Do I stay? Do I say something? If he moves now, he's gambling on finding somewhere else before he runs out. If he stays, he's gambling on the lot staying normal, and the lot is already failing the normal test. That's when Wes hears a knock, not on his door. Tucks down, latches, Nidas. That's when the 2 tucks down. This lips and this regards a lot. Must figure the what could be there to every. Wes can't make out the words, but he was got one on over. So I don't know the bridges for us. What girl do naga? This is testing. Testing who responds. Testing who's awake. Testing who might open a door. And Wes knows why that matters, because the most dangerous interactions at a rest stop often don't start with violence. They start with a conversation, a request, a story, a distraction. And if you're half asleep and you crack the door to be polite, you've already made the first mistake, the oldest play on the road, a problem you didn't know you had. There's a phrase drivers repeat like a joke, but it isn't a joke. If someone knocks at 2 a.m., they're not selling cookies. The man knocks again, this time on the truck directly. Across from Wes watches the cab. A curtain moves. A window cracks open. A voice from inside says something short, irritated. The man outside answers quickly. Too quickly like he had the script ready. Wes can't hear the words, but he can predict the content. Because truckers have heard variations of it forever. Your trailer lights are out. Your tandems are slid wrong. You got a flat. Your doors are open. Something's leaking. Some of those warnings can be real. Trucks do have problems, but the timing matters. If it's a real emergency, there are ways to communicate it without getting a stranger to open a door in the middle of the night. And if it's not real, then the problem is just a lever to make you come outside. Wes watches the driver across the way hesitate, then open his door just a crack, just enough to talk. The man outside steps closer immediately. Too close. Wes's hands tighten on the steering wheel though the engine is off. This is where the night can flip fast, because the moment a driver steps down from the cab, he's in the open. He's lower than the trailer. He can't see behind it. He can't see what's on the other side of his truck. And if there's someone else nearby, someone hidden by a trailer, or the shadow of a tree line, this is when they move. Wes doesn't know if that's happening tonight. He can't claim it, but he knows enough to respect the possibility. The driver across from him says something again, louder. The man outside backs off half a step, like he's calming the situation. Then he gestures toward the rear of the truck like he wants the driver to come look. The driver hesitates, then steps down onto the pavement. Wes's heart rate jumps, not because he's watching a crime, but because he's watching a mistake, and mistakes at night don't come with rewind buttons. Wes grabs his CB mic and keys it softly. Driver across from me, don't go walking around your trailer with a stranger out here. His voice is low but firm. The driver freezes, looks around like he's suddenly aware. The man doesn't approach Wes. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't acquire a sense of storing and walks off, despairing between each other. One end. The driver across the way stood what? And dressed in slagt and documents source will be it for his Dodger. Hey, monster in Munen his heart again. So you again. A matter of life inside your music week. The manager of operation where you marry was everyone's wrestling that reads like that's guy knocking doors. Yeah, I seen. Keep M locked. Copy. Then silence. Wes's phone buzzes again, another message in the group chat. Door knocker in mile 178 rest area. Tall guy. Don't open. No one adds emojis. No one adds drama. Just the minimum needed to update the system. And then something happens that proves how real that system is. 2 trucks in the front row trucks that had parked alone under the lights start up and pull out, one after the other. They don't honk. They don't announce it. They just leave. A few minutes later, another follows. Those empty spots reappear. Not because the rest area is unpopular, but because drivers are voting with their tires again. They're deciding, silently. Not tonight. Wes watches them roll out and feels the temptation hard. He could leave too, but he checks the clock. He has minutes left. Not enough to reach a guaranteed parking option. And that's the trap. This is what makes some rest stops feel dangerous, not the people walking around, not even the loops of a sedan. It's the way the place forces drivers into bad choices because of time. A tired driver will accept risks he wouldn't accept at noon. Not because he wants to, because he has to. Wes leans back, thinking. Then he notices another detail that's easy to miss in a packed lot. A white utility van has parked along the far edge of the car section, facing the trucks, no logo. No markings. Just a plain van. Plenty of normal reasons for that. Maintenance. A traveler. Someone waiting. But the van doesn't park like someone resting. It parks like someone watching. And the van's position matters more than the van itself. It's in a spot where you can see down the truck rows without being in them. Where you can see which cabs are dark and which have movement. Where you can see who steps outside. Wes watches the van for a full minute. No one gets out. Then, faintly, he sees the glow of a phone screen inside. Someone is in there. And they're awake. Wes feels the shape of a new theory forming, one he doesn't like. Spotter. Not confirmed. Not proven. Just a concept truckers talk about when the same weird patterns show up in multiple places. A car loops. A van watches. A person knocks. A driver opens. Something happens. Wes doesn't know what happens next, but he can feel the pieces lining up, the mistake that looks like common sense. In the middle of all this, there's one action that would feel totally reasonable to a non-trucker. Wes considers it for half a second. Go to the restroom. Wash his face. Reset. He hasn't used the bathroom since his last fuel stop. He's tired. Dry eyes. Stiff legs. The building is right there. Bright lights. A steady stream of people. A sense of normal. But experienced drivers learn something that outsiders rarely consider. Every time you leave your cab at night, you create an opportunity. Not automatically a disaster. An opportunity. Your door is a boundary. When you cross it, you change the game. And it's not just about strangers, it's about timing. If someone has been watching the row watching who is awake, who is alone, who is moving, the moment you step down is a piece of information. It says, the driver is out. It says, the cab is unattended. It says, the routine is predictable. Wes looks at the restroom building again. He sees a person leaning near the entrance, not going in, not leaving, just standing. Then that person looks toward the truck row, not like a tourist people watching, like someone checking for movement. Wes decides he can wait. He stays inside. He keeps his curtain gap small. He doesn't scroll his phone. He watches, because once you start seeing the lot as a system, you stop looking for the bad guy. You start looking for coordination. The moment the rest stop flips at 11:57 p.m., it happens. Not a bang, not a scream, a simple shift. The white utility van's headlights flick on, and it rolls forward 20 feet, then stops again. A reposition like it wants a different angle. At almost the same time, the dark sedan comes in slow loop along the car car section, then a drift toward the front row of trucks, no headlights for a second, then a flicker, and then from between the trailers near the bathroom side, the door-knocking man reappears. Wes watches it like a chessboard van adjusts, and God, I'm at these 20 amperes. Y'all seen that van over in the car lot? A driver answers, quick. Yep. Another voice cuts in, older, calmer. Don't get spun up. Just don't open your doors. Wes releases the mic. He doesn't feel spun up. He feels focused. And that focus makes him notice something new, something he missed earlier. Because the lot was too busy, there's a footpath in the grass. At the far edge of the rest area, a worn strip leading from the tree line toward the back of the truck parking. Not official. Not paved. Just a path that exists because people have. Without passing the mist, it's pure. Wes feels the implication land heavy. Wes feels the imposto as opposed to the most dangerous. Wes watches as Moreno's the rules of drive while that power out to God. And he toward another car, the man. The man said, I'm the car, I need to see it. And if you're of them, when my illness is so probably way of the side I thought, then like this bundle how this goes. He looks patient, like he has all night. But Wes knows the truth. He doesn't, because truckers start rolling out before dawn, and whatever someone is doing in a rest stop parking lot innocent or not only works, while drivers are tired and quiet, which means if there's a plan, it has a window. And right now, Wes is inside that window. The message that tightens the knot. Wes's phone buzzes again. This time it's not the group chat. It's a direct text from an unfamiliar number. Just one sentence. If you're at mile 178, don't step out. They're baiting guys with you got a leak. Wes stares at it. The phrasing, they're baiting guys, isn't proof of a crew. It could be exaggeration, but it matches what he just saw. The man gesturing for a driver to walk around his trailer. And now Wes has a bigger concern than his own cab. How many drivers are about to hear that knock and think they're being helpful by responding? How many are about to step outside because they don't want to ignore a potential equipment problem? And here's the brutal irony. Good drivers care about their trucks. They care about safety. They care about being responsible. And that responsibility can be used against them because it makes them predictable. Wes looks across the lot again. The rookie from last night pops into his mind, young, tired, wanting to do things right. Wes wonders how many rookies are parked in this lot right now, alone under lights, thinking the danger is only in the shadows. Then his phone buzzes again. This one is from the rookie, and what it says makes Wes sit up straighter than he has all night. Hey man, someone just knocked and said my trailer doors were open. I didn't open. Is that a thing? Wes's throat goes dry because the rookie isn't even in this rest area. He's somewhere else, which means the pattern isn't just repeating, it's spreading, or it's coordinated across more than one stop. Wes types back quickly, careful with his words. Yes, don't open. Stay locked. If you gotta check, wait for daylight or get another driver to look with you. Carl, the van, the slow-moving sedan, the shadows between trailers, and he realizes the midpoint truth that changes how this whole story feels. The dangerous rest stop isn't a single location. It's a moving environment created by timing, routines, and people who understand truckers' habits well enough to press the same buttons in different places. And if people who understand Leo for Leo, with two integrated trucker habits when right there, the law from Leo. I mean, Chase man, the tomato nuts. I feel like it is third, although it will going to be so long, look at great, that's bad. The unit number 3 lane is there, the bitch rock. And I think never really Leo. We're one of the earth other who told me to very as blurry like what you most gra. The latter order of ocean runs today. Ready we should break the gun. Maybe is specifically with them boy, granting the number required more traffic. Don't survive to our lights, I give a big life. If I really don't fail, it's already do it and rain, not so good. Still to get out there, labor for the last one. Crowds and make the kid in black art. Grind like that, best. Close it out, but then not to like feel it. Best on night, you have right. So the 3 week areas with that breath. Later books, later be in there, look as wait, later to the right way. We're back with you know that's go. Logan there's my fingers. Still for in the big quiet of that look we are there everybody. Fletching and a lot of like there, Missouri. These people there was called it to his own door. The decision that can coast you hars. Wes doesn't sleep, not the way you mean it. He drifts for a few minutes at a time, then snaps awake like his brain is doing roll call. Every sound outside has to be categorized. That's the mental tax of a weird night. You don't just rest, you monitor. At 1:12 a.m., he hears the same door knock again, somewhere to his right. 2 hard taps, a pause, then a voice, low enough that it won't carry far, but loud enough for a driver inside to hear through glass. Wes can't make out the words, but he knows the shape of the script now. A problem. A reason to engage. A reason to step down. Wes stays still, eyes on his mirror. The figure moves on. A few minutes later, a different sound replaces the knock. A faint scrape, like plastic dragging on metal. Wes's stomach tightens. That sound doesn't belong to conversation. It belongs to hands. He leans forward and watches the passenger side mirror, because the passenger side is the blind side for a lot of drivers at night. Not because mirrors don't work, but because you don't naturally stare at that direction while you're lying down. In the mirror, he catches movement low to the ground near the trailer of the truck 2 spaces ahead. A crouched silhouette, not a driver doing a pre-trip. Not at 1 a.m. the silhouette shifts, then disappears behind the truck. Wes doesn't open his door. He doesn't jump out. He doesn't shout. Instead, he does the most trucker thing possible. He starts his engine. The diesel rumbles to life, and the whole cab vibrates. Marker lights glow. His headlights spill across the lane and wash the shadows off the pavement. In the mirror, the crouched figure is gone. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was someone who decided it wasn't worth it now. Either way, Wes just changed the math without stepping outside. And that's one of the oldest survival instincts in trucking. Make yourself inconvenient. A few trucks down, another engine starts up too, then another like a row of dominoes tipping in slow motion. Nobody's making announcements. They're timed out. They're trapped by their own clocks. And from the outside, if you're a regular motorist, it's easy to judge. Why would anyone park like that? But inside trucking culture, those odd angles are a confession. I came in late, and late doesn't just reduce your parking options. Late changes who else is still awake. Late changes who is moving through the lot. Late is when the normal people sleep and the abnormal patterns get louder. Wes's phone buzzes again. A message from Clay, just 3 words. You stopping there? Wes types back. Had to. Full lot. Weird night. Clay replies almost immediately. That's why I stop early. Like, Clay isn't lazy, Clay is practical. And now idling in a rest area that feels like it's being worked like a fishing hole. Wes understands what Clay really meant. Stopping early was must off your right. Så lever breden igen curse. Det tar det så att alla så säger. First word was a far like clocking said out of our cats. Now we're only doing a front idle. I run out my option. At the time, it sounded like a slogan. Tonight, it sounds like a map. Wes watches a rig attempt to squeeze into a spot that isn't a spot 2 feet of pavement between a parked trailer and a curb. The driver gets out, walks around, gestures at empty air like the lot is supposed to make room for him. He climbs back in and tries again. The truck scrapes its trailer tires against the curb. Wes winces. Not because it's loud, because it's predictable. That driver is announcing to everyone around. I'm stressed, I'm tired, I'm stuck here, and I'm not thinking clearly. Those are the drivers trouble finds easiest. A stot. Ori that changes how drivers think about. One more exit. Clay's message. That's why I stop early pulls Wes back to the diner conversation from earlier. Clay had told him a story that was almost boring on the surface. Not a headline story, a time and choice story. Clay had said he used to push late. Always. He'd run until his clock hit fumes, then hunt parking like it was a sport. One night, he'd been low on time and rolled into a rest area that was full. Completely full. He couldn't legally keep driving much farther. So he did what a lot of drivers do when they're desperate and nobody's watching. He parked on the ramp shoulder. It wasn't a good shoulder. It sloped toward the ditch. It was narrow. Cars flew by close enough that the air rocked the trailer, but he told himself the same thing thousands of drivers tell themselves. It's just for the night. He shut down. He tried to sleep. At some point after midnight, he woke to a knock on his door, on the side of his trailer. A slap, like someone was testing the metal. Clay said his first instinct was anger. Who touches somebody's truck? Then he realized the worst part. Parked on the shoulder, he couldn't see anything. He couldn't see the car lane behind him. Couldn't see the access road. Couldn't see if someone was standing in the blind spot right beside the cab. And if he started the truck and tried to pull off, he'd be merging into fast traffic from a dead stop with almost no runway. He was pinned. Clay told Wes he lay there for 10 minutes, listening, trying to decide whether the noise was a prank or a test or an accident. Finally, he started his engine same as Wes did tonight, just to light the area up. The slapping stopped. No proof. No confrontation. No dramatic ending. But Clay said the lesson hit him harder than any theft story. He didn't like what he'd become. A professional driver reduced to a guy hiding on a shoulder, hoping the night passed. The next day, Clay stopped at 5 p.m. with an hour and a half left on his clock. He lost miles, but he slept. And that sleep, real sleep, made the next day safer, faster, and cleaner. That's when I quit worshiping the clock, Clay had said, and started protecting my stops. Hey, driver, you got a leak. There it is. The script, simple. Responsible sounding. Designed to trigger the part of a preface. Signal driver that hates ignoring a mechanical issue. Because if you really have a leak, you don't want to be the guy who left a hazard on the road. Wes doesn't answer. The voice repeats, slightly louder. Driver, your truck's leaking. You need to check it. Wes keeps his eyes on the mirror. He can't see the person clearly, just a shape near the passenger steps. Wes's hands move slowly, deliberately. He turns on his interior light, not the bright dome. A small reading light angled toward the windshield, just enough to show someone is awake in here. Then he keys the CB mic and speaks calmly, as if he's talking to another driver. Copy. I'm awake. I'll check it in daylight. He doesn't know if the person outside hears the CB. That's not the point. The point is the tone. Wiz isn't panicked. He isn't curious. He isn't stepping down. The person outside shifts. Wiz watches the shadow retreat, moving away from the passenger side and disappearing between trucks. No confrontation. No hero moment. Just a refused interaction. And in that small moment, the most dangerous mistake becomes clearer, not because the script spells it out, but because Wes can feel how close the hook was. If he'd cracked the door to ask, where's it leaking? If he'd walked toward the rear of the trailer because someone told him his doors were open, he wouldn't just be checking a problem. He'd be following someone else's plan, and the plan's only power is getting you out of the cab. Wes sits back, heart thumping. He doesn't feel brave. He feels annoyed, because this isn't supposed to be part of the job. The job is driving. But the job after midnight includes refusing invitations, the strongest rule so far, and why it isn't what people think. If you asked most people what the number one safety rule is at a rest stop, they'd say something obvious: lock your doors. That matters, sure. But Wes is starting to understand the deeper rule underneath. Don't let anyone else control your sequence of actions. Tykes in Berlombrumber. Ruckers run on routines. Pull in, park, bathroom, eat, sleep, pre-trip. roll out. Those routines make the job survivable. But the moment someone interrupts your routine on their terms, knock, warning, request, you're vulnerable because you're reacting, not deciding. So the most important unwritten rule isn't be tough. It's stay in charge. Stay in charge of when you open the door. Stay in charge of when you step outside. Stay in charge of when you move. That's what experienced drivers protect. It's also why they'll sacrifice hours to stop early. Because early stops let them choose. Late stops force them to react. And reaction is where mistakes happen. The stories that made the rules stick later. Wes will collect stories the way drivers do, one at a time. From people who have no reason to lie and no reason to dramatize, not true crime stories, work stories. One driver tells him about a night when a stranger knocked and said, "Your trailer's rolling smoke." The driver stepped out half awake, walked to the back, found nothing. When he turned back, he saw movement near his passenger door, someone trying it. "Quick!" The driver yelled, and the person disappeared between trailers. Nothing stolen that time. But the driver said the part that stuck with Wes. "It wasn't the door handle that scared me. It was how clean they pulled me out." Another driver tells him about a fuel stop, not a rest area. He'd parked alone along the edge because the lot was full, went inside for 10 minutes, came back, and his side box was open. Tools gone, not catastrophic, but enough to cost him money and hours. He said, "I didn't even see nobody. I just gave him a window." That's the theme across all of it. Windows, not literal windows, time windows, attention windows, routine windows. You don't need a violent encounter to lose your night. Sometimes you just lose the ability to work the next day because your tools are gone, your fuel is low, your sleep is wrecked, and your head is full of static. And that's why truckers treat certain. Known for what happens when you show up tired and alone and polite. The full lot dilemma. Stay and endure, or roll the dice at 2:30 a.m. The lot shifts again. Two rigs in the front row start up and leave one after another. Maybe they're early departures. Maybe they got spooked. Maybe they got spooked. Maybe they neutral real after really circling with real after the dance years. It be never Antoni, but she made will be deeper the daughter. Maybe they're dead. They're too like but their houses. You drop per minute. And you're there or get real bullet. Move ever get so touch. Knocking again. Sedan back. Van still sitting there. Yeah, I see it. Then an older voice, calm, annoyed, like he's dealt with nonsense for decades, breaks in. "Y'all need to quit playing detective and start thinking like drivers." Wes keys up. "What you mean by that?" The older voice replies, "I mean, you don't win this by staring out your curtains all night. You win it by not being there when it gets stupid." Wes pauses. That sounds like avoid the area, which isn't always possible. But the voice continues, and the next sentence is the one that makes Wes sit forward. "You don't wait till your clock is empty to find a place to sleep." That's rookie math. Rookie math. Wes doesn't take offense. He hears the truth in it. The voice goes on. "Stop early or stop late. Don't stop right when everybody else stops." Wes looks at the lot packed wall to wall with trucks that all arrived within the same window because their clocks push them into the same decision. And suddenly, that sentence becomes the missing piece. This isn't just about criminals or opportunists. It's about traffic patterns. When thousands of truckers across a region all run the same hours, the same breaks, the same late-night shutdown window, they create predictable surges. Lots fill. Desperation rises. And anyone looking for easy opportunities knows exactly when to show up. Wes keys the mic again. "So what your rule is just stop early." The voice answers, "My rule is protect your options. If you got options, you ain't trapped. Protect your options." That's the cleanest version of it, and it reframes the whole night. Because Wes didn't get stressed when he saw the sedan. He got stressed when he realized he couldn't leave. The danger wasn't a person. The danger was a lack of options. The rule that changes everything, and why it's hard to follow for a lot of drivers. Stopping early feels impossible. Dispatch wants miles. Receivers want on-time deliveries. Fuel prices change by state. Parking is a gamble. But the drivers who manage to stay ahead of the night, who seem strangely calm in places that feel chaotic, often do one thing differently. They treat parking like the most important part of the day, not the afterthought. They don't see how far they can get. They accept losing an hour now to avoid losing control later. That's not a motivational poster. It's logistics, and it's the kind of logistics you only learn after you've stared at a full lot with an empty clock and realized your safety plan can't start at midnight. It has to start at 4 p.m. Wes thinks about last night, the empty front row at the other rest area, how it looked like a gift until you understood it as a warning. Tonight the lot is full, but the warning is different when the lot is packed. The place. And that's when it clicks even harder. A dangerous rest stop isn't permanently dangerous. It changes. It turns. Sometimes it turns because of lighting and time. Sometimes it turns because of who arrives. And sometimes it turns because drivers, silently, start avoiding a row, creating an empty stretch that looks like a gift to the next tired rook. Wes climbs back into his cab and watches the sun lift over the trees. His phone buzzes one more time. A new message from the rookie. "Appreciate you. I didn't open." Guy left. Wes exhales. No headline. No proof. No closure. Just a small, avoided mistake. And Wes realizes that's what the unwritten rules are really for. Not to turn you into a vigilante. Not to make you brave. To help you avoid the one choice that flips a weird night into a bad story, Wes starts his truck, air building with a steady hiss. As he rolls toward the exit, he looks at the rows one last time, and he thinks back to the very first scene the night he pulled into a rest stop with plenty of open spaces and drove past them like they didn't exist. Back then, it looked irrational. Now it looks like the smartest thing he did all week. But there's still one question hanging over everything. What exactly was Wes reading in in that empty row? What detail made experienced drivers treat open parking like a warning sign, and how can you spot it before you become the only truck under the light?
Well, what people remember Swedish roving on, right, was it? What people remember is with every opus, the way where people were about that little curfew confess and all this car bear the clock, and you wear a lock of this and we'll brack the box. The West End is certainly was good with water. We move in, but I don't know of logs.
You saw a layout, and that layout had a problem built into it. The front row, those easy, wide spaces, sat in a strange little pocket of traffic where three things overlap. The entrance lane. Every vehicle that comes in has to pass that row first. The bathroom building. Foot traffic naturally funnels right past those spaces, whether it's families, solo travelers, or people with no plan at all. The car side. Any vehicle in the passenger lot can roll close enough to those trucks without weaving through the tighter truck rows. To an outsider, that sounds convenient. To an experienced driver, it sounds like exposure, because exposure isn't just being seen. It's being reachable. If someone can pull alongside you without anyone else having to notice, you're easier to work. And if someone can approach on foot under the excuse of, I'm just going to the bathroom, you're easier to test. Wes knew that before he ever touched the brakes. But that wasn't the detail that made him keep driving. It was what the light did. The lighting trick most motorists don't notice. Those front row spaces were under the best lights in the lot. That's exactly why Wes didn't like them. A bright pole light doesn't just light up the pavement. It creates a stage effect. Your cab becomes a silhouette box. Any movement behind the curtain is visible from a distance. A phone screen glow becomes a signal. A curtain shift becomes proof you're awake or asleep. And then there's the part nobody thinks about until they've lived it: glare from the driver's seat. That bright light bounces off windshields, chrome mirrors, and polished trailers. The ability to stealing the one kind you actually need at night. The ability to see what's approaching from the edge of the lot. Wes had learned that the same way most drivers learn and not from, like the lane pass, like, here's this breakfast on it. No, but the legend is that wasn't real, right? With that learning guy we want stories, spelling real, away every way that the watching your point of view. A real is more than bringing this over the rival with the roller. Or you remember with the man, let's go. So really going over to be able to spend the his parts, sort of like spreading out panel. Truckers talk with their tires. If a row is avoided, it usually means one of three things. The row is genuinely awkward tight turns, potholes, bad angles. Something about it makes drivers uncomfortable. Foot traffic, car access, blind corners. Something happened there recently, Eno. Where the lot made it easiest, he parked where the lot made it hardest for someone else to get to him unnoticed. And that choice only makes sense once you realize what experienced truckers are actually protecting at night, not that snacky political. That's why so many of the rules don't sound like rules. Don't sound like rules, don't expose that good. Maybe it would be the real quick connection for 20 back. They're kind of different than they know about her, but there is I'm willing to be clue rows in the tour out of there. Once you start, don't let a knock rewrite your routine. Don't arrive late enough that the lot chooses for you. None of those guarantee safety. What they do is reduce predictability, and predictability in first keep out the zen. What they do is reduce Let's first read the They assume the threat is matter of race, but the truth is Kurdish fraud to continue. This is at night trim with finger control and life said that's no. T, where they can move, where they actually do. Because a car that loops once is normal. A car that loops twice is information. A car that loops 3 times is a pattern. Who is walking and why? A person walking toward the restroom makes sense. A person walking the truck row with no destination is a question. A person repeating the same walk is a warning. Where are the blind seams? Every rest area has seams, places where light ends, where trailers create tunnels, where the tree line touches the pavement. A clean, well-lit lot can still have invisible corridors, and when those corridors lead from the car side to the truck side, experienced drivers notice who else is awake. Not because they expect rescue, because awake drivers change the calculus. A row full of sleeping trucks is still a row of sleeping trucks. A row where 2 curtains are cracked, 1 engine is idling, and a driver is watching his mirror is a row that's harder to work. He rarely leads with the sedan. He leads with the emptiness because the sedan could be undused. Because the sedan could bud the empire side. You were already there, but there was another dinner tonight. Brad is about the ember, the video of idea makes an interest and both ways started with past. So West started apartment, so these work is 7 ways to have this and from so about the passive. Let's be very dog, Riggies, the brown, the bones, good ways, all of them. Ying attention to something most people never think about: the geometry of approach. Can someone approach my passenger door while staying in shadow? Can someone stand between my trailer and another trailer where I can't see them? Can a car pull alongside my tanks and block me from seeing what's happening? Can someone knock and then step out of my mirror's view? Those aren't paranoid questions. They're the questions you ask when your bed is parked in public. The callback. Why crowded sometimes wins. The second rest area proves something that sounds contradictory until you live it. A crowded lot can be safer than an empty one, and also riskier in different ways. Crowded creates witnesses, but also creates cover. Empty creates visibility, but also creates isolation, so experienced drivers aren't chasing busy or quiet. They're chasing predictable. A row of working trucks, reefer units humming. Drivers occasionally stepping out to check straps. Engines starting at dawn is predictable. A row exposed to foot traffic, car loops, and midnight knocks is unpredictable. That's why Wes chose the noisy, packed row on the first night. He wasn't seeking comfort. He was seeking a kind of social friction that makes bad behavior harder. What happened to the rookie, and why it matters a week after that second rest area. Wes gets a call from the rookie, not a panic call, just a tired voice, on speaker, somewhere on a different highway. I moved my stops earlier like you said, the rookie admits. Feels like I'm wasting time. Wes keeps his eyes on the road and answers carefully. Yeah, it feels like that at first. The rookie hesitates. But I've been sleeping better. Wes says that's the point. There's a pause. Then the rookie says, I keep thinking about that knock thing. Wes knows what he means. Once you learn that a knock can be a script, you never hear knocks the same way again. The rookie asks, so what's the actual rule? Like, what do you do? Wes doesn't say, rule number 1. He says it like a driver talk. Ing to another driver. Because that's how the rules survive. You don't let strangers pick your next move. Wes tells him. If you gotta check something, you do it when you choose daylight or with another driver. You don't let the lot pull you outside. The rookie is quiet for a moment. Then he says something that's honest in a way only a new driver can be. I thought being a good driver meant always responding. Like, if someone says there's a leak, you check. Wes nods, even though the kid can't see it. That's what makes it work, Wes says. It uses your professionalism against you. That's not fear. That's pattern recognition. And it's the kind of lesson that changes a driver's entire relationship with rest stops. Because now the rookie isn't just thinking, where can I park? He's thinking, what is this place asking me to do, and do I have to do it? The final night, the same rest stop, seen with new eyes a month later. Wes is back on a similar route, different freight, different schedule, different weather, but the same kind of night. He runs long later than he wants, and he sees a rest area sign he recognizes, not the exact place from the first night, but a similar design. Entrance, bathroom building, car lot, then the truck rows. He takes the exit anyway, because sometimes the job still forces your hand. This time it's raining lightly. The windshield wipers move in a slow rhythm, and the reflections of the lot lights smear across the pavement like wet paint. As Wes rolls in, he sees it immediately, plenty of open spaces in the front row, bright lights. Easy pull-throughs. The temptation is real, but now, he knows what to look for. He slows at the entrance, and doesn't commit. He watches a sedan sits in the car lot with the engine running. Not illegal. Not dramatic. But it's facing the trucks, not the building. A person is standing near the bathroom exit, not walking anywhere, just lingering under the overhang watching the lot, and then Wes notices the detail that to him is louder than any of it. The open spaces are positioned exactly where a vehicle can loop, pause beside a truck, and leave without ever driving deep into the truck rows. In other words, those spaces are easy for more than one reason. They're easy for a tired driver to take and easy for a stranger to access. Wes drives past them again, but he doesn't just hunt for crowded.
Det är om every time that Della never will like the efforts how you know more than who they and ruin Abronian sound. I told you, you know, the alien else was the man who wanted to thought you this was in the road.
Not aggressive, just alive. Then he flashes his marker lights twice slow, deliberate, a quiet signal. I see you. I'm awake. This row isn't empty. The rookie's truck pauses, like the driver noticed something, but isn't sure what. After a minute, the rookie pulls forward and relocates into a tighter row near other rigs. No words exchanged. No lecture. Just a nudge one driver giving another driver a chance to make a better choice without losing face. Wes watches the rookie settle in. Then, finally, he climbs into the sleeper and CL, closes the curtain. Not because the night is guaranteed safe, because he's done what these unwritten rules are really for. He's reduced the number of ways the night can surprise him. What truckers survive, that nobody applauds. Most people imagine the hardest part of trucking is the driving, the ice, the mountains.
That's the ribbon, and that requires noticing what other people ignore, the weird emptiness of a good road. It needs a sweet story, or is it one truck or 12 minutes, but is it more? Or is it knowing when not to stop you, or the fraud, the review, you want to be on your clock or begging you to.
If you've spent time on the road trucker or not, what's the most important unwritten rule you've learned that nobody told you up front?